You ever have one of those memories that you are 100% sure is real, only to find out it never actually happened? Or maybe you've just had that weird, unsettling feeling that something about reality is, well, just a little bit off.
You know what I'm talking about. It's that spooky feeling of déjà vu. That powerful, unmistakable sensation that you are literally reliving a moment. Now, most of us just kind of brush it off as a weird brain glitch. But what if it's something more? A lot more.
Today, we're going to dive deep into these common but very weird experiences, these little glitches in our reality. And we're going to explore a truly mind-bending theory that says they aren't glitches at all. In fact, they might just be clues.
So let's start with probably the most famous example of all time. How do you remember spelling the name of this kids' book series? If you, like literally millions of other people, vividly remember it spelled with an E, well, according to our current reality, you're wrong. It's always been Berenstain with an A. Weird, right?
And oh, it goes so much deeper than a children's book. Remember the Monopoly Man with his monocle? Yeah, he never had one. Darth Vader's famous line? He actually says, "No, I am your father." And that classic 90s movie, Shazam, where the comedian Sinbad played a genie? It never existed. And it's Fruit Loops, not fruit, even though so many of us would swear on it. See, these aren't just random mistakes. They are incredibly specific memories shared by millions.
So what is going on here? This points to a massive, unexplained phenomenon. How can so many people from all corners of the globe have the exact same wrong memory about the exact same tiny detail?
Okay, now let's look at a different kind of glitch. The Simpsons. For decades, this cartoon has been making jokes that later came true with just uncanny accuracy. They joked about a Trump presidency, Disney buying Fox, even the design of a skyscraper in London years before it was ever even designed. Just a coincidence? Maybe, but the list is eerily long.
So we've got these shared false memories, we've got these spooky predictions. What if all these strange things aren't random at all? What if someone saw this whole thing coming decades ago?
And this is where we meet the visionary author, Philip K. Dick. You might know his name from the movies based on his work like Blade Runner or Total Recall. But long before anyone had a name for any of this stuff, he laid out a theory that seems to explain the whole shebang.
Just look at the date on that quote, 1977. 1977. This was decades before the internet would let people connect and realize they were sharing these false memories. Dick stood up in front of an audience in France and flat out claimed our reality is a program that's being actively changed, and these changes leave behind little clues.
Now, to really get his theory, you gotta understand the man. Dick spent his entire career obsessed with the nature of reality. Then, in 1974, he had this totally bizarre experience with a flash of pink light that made him believe he was living in two timelines at the same time, modern-day California and ancient Rome. So for him, this wasn't just sci-fi. This culminated in that absolutely radical speech in 1977.
Okay, so how did Dick think reality actually works? This is where you might want to buckle up, because his model for it is fascinating.
He called his big idea orthogonal time. Now, don't get hung up on the fancy word. All it really means is that he believed time doesn't just move forward in a straight line. It also moves sideways. The idea is that changes aren't made to the future, they're made to the past, which instantly creates a new, slightly different version of the present that we all just branch off onto.
So, think about it like this. On one hand, you have how we usually see time. It's a straight road, the past is fixed. But in Dick's theory, the past is more like a variable in a computer program. When it gets reprogrammed, we don't feel some big jolt, we just keep on living our lives on a new branch of the timeline, and most of us don't even notice that a shift happened.
To make this idea a little clearer, Dick used this really simple analogy about a painting. Imagine someone keeps sneaking into your house at night and changing tiny little details on a painting you own. You'd look at it the next day and get that weird feeling. Something is off, even if you can't put your finger on what. That, he said, is exactly what it's like when our reality gets tweaked. Little variables change, and we're left with this residual memory of how things used to be.
But why? Why would our reality be reprogrammed? Dick explained it like a cosmic chess game. There's a good guy, the programmer, playing against a destructive, dark force. And while it might look like the dark force is winning sometimes, every single move is actually part of a bigger, pre-planned game that the programmer is guaranteed to win. The timeline shifts are just the programmer making adjustments for a better outcome.
So,
If our reality is being subtly changed to steer us all toward a better ending, what would the side effects be for us living inside of it? Okay, this is where everything starts to click together.
And here it is, the most stunning part of his whole theory. When he was asked back in 1977 what evidence we would see of these timeline shifts, Dick described the exact symptoms of what we now call the Mandela effect. I mean, his prediction is so accurate, it's chilling. He said we'd have these false memories and that whole groups of people would have the exact same false memories.
I mean, just think about those dates for a second. In 1977, Dick lays out the theory and its side effects. It's not until 2009, when the internet finally lets people connect on a massive scale, that Fiona Broome even gives the phenomenon a name.
That's 32 years. Philip K. Dick was 32 years ahead of the curve, describing a global phenomenon before the rest of us even had a word for it.
And this just reframes everything, doesn't it? From this point of view, déjà vu isn't your brain misfiring. It's a genuine memory. It's your consciousness recognizing a moment because you have, quite literally, lived through a version of it before a variable was changed.
So, what does this all mean for us? Well, if we take this theory even a little bit seriously, it suggests we're living in a much more dynamic, much more flexible universe than we ever could have imagined.
And the clues are all around us, in these tiny, everyday inconsistencies. Your body remembering a light switch in a different spot. That feature in your car you swear used to be there. Those incredibly vivid dreams of places you feel like you know, but you've never actually been. These are the little artifacts, the residual memories left behind after a timeline shifts.
Look, the big takeaway here isn't to get paranoid or think nothing is real. Instead, it's to maybe consider that reality isn't some fixed, static recording. Maybe it's a living, dynamic system that's constantly being optimized, and we're all just experiencing that process in real time.
And that leaves us with one last thought to chew on. The next time you have a memory that contradicts the official record, maybe don't be so quick to just dismiss it as your mistake. What if it's not a glitch in your mind, but a little souvenir from a timeline you no longer inhabit?